Okay, good morning everyone. Welcome back to the fourth day of the International Associated Laboratory Meeting, LIA 2022. Now it's a pleasure to invite for our first talk of the day, the full professor by the Federal University of Minas Gerais and a full member of the National Biosafety Council, Professor Dr. Ana Lúcia Godard.
Good morning, everybody. I would like to speak in French. Could I? No problem. And then everybody will be understand. Now let's talk about alcoholism disorder, and this is a little bit quite important for our populations and its interconnections with immune system, diet, and microbiota. And just a few words about alcohol in society, mostly in Brazil. It's a really, really largest health burden in society. Only in Brazil, we estimate that 59% of the population make use of ethanol in an abusive manner, or binge, it's a heavy drink alcohol, and almost approximately 40% of them are dependent or addicted. And about, do you prefer I stay photograph or stars? Okay. And about the therapy, the effective treatment remain challenging. And one of the blessing of psychobiotic treatment strategy had great promise as a treatment for alcohol use disorder and maybe probiotics. It's a really great opportunity. And what is definition about alcohol use disorder? And it's a multifactorial and a complex disease, and there is a cluster between cognitive, behavior, and physiology symptoms related to continuous use of alcohol. When we talk about continuous, the main tissue involved in alcohol addiction is the brain. And by that, there is a relapsing disorder that is modulated by conversion, loss of control, and emergence of negative emotional state. And about the brain, the main circuit involved in alcohol use disorder is the reward system or dopamine system. In this, when you use alcohol, there is a projection or release of dopamine, the main neurotransmitter on the alcohol use disorders, the projection from the VTA to two parts of the brain, and prefrontal cortex and nuclear accumbens, the little part, the end of the striatum. And both are regulated in the reward system and the normal motivation of alcohol, food, gain, pleasure. And when you use in an abused manner alcohol, there is a neuroadaptation in this brain region, and continuous use leads to exacerbation of motivation, impaired decision making, inhibitor control, and addiction. And this two local prefrontal cortex and striatum, the main regions that regulate the addiction use of alcohol. And we are interested in these two parts of the brain. And there's another brain regulated the reward more than my own. There's another brain regulated the manner or the behavior of alcohol use disorders is the intestinal microbiota. And we know now that the microbiota gut-brain axis is a regulator of reward process by this complex name that microbiota metabolites like neurotransmitters or peptide sequence can throughout the epithelium, gut epithelium, go through system circulations or by vagus nerves and regulated the reward system by induced produced our hormones by insulin, leptin, renin, and goes through the regulates the reward system here in the brain, and here the prefrontal cortex or the nuclear accumbens, or PTH here, or by through the communication by vagus nerves, by some neurotransmitter or peptides produced by microbiome metabolites, and also induces the cytokines production and leads to a neuroinflammation in the brain. And our goal, our question is, if I manage to regulate the microbiota, can I also target and regulate the addictive behavior or the reward system? And in order to answer these questions, we decided to develop an animal model that with a modulation of the microbiota and analyze or study the behavior. And that is our goal or target. And this work is to study about access the relationship between alcohol, behavior, microbiota, and neuroinflammation, and also eventually to identify new targets for the treatment. And another thing, another information, that epidemiological studies have put out the same pathway between regulating eating disorders and compulsive alcohol in humans. It means that eating disorders and alcohol use disorders share the same behaviors, like persistent craving, use despite negative consequences, successful attempts to stop use, and the dopamine pathway both regulates both behaviors, food intake and alcohol use. And in which direction, we don't know, maybe both. We eat diet high in sugar and fat. Maybe I develop later alcohol consumption disorders. Or if I am addicted in alcohol, when I stop to drink alcohol, maybe I develop food disorders, and it is true. In this sense, we saw this, we can see this with the bariatric surgery. A lot of people that had the bariatric surgery had alcohol use disorders, and in the opposite side is true also. And in this sense, we decided to develop with my own collaboration, I will show you later, an animal model that we need compulsive or behavior challenging to eat something in an abusive manner. And to do this, we need an animal model with two phases. The first phase is 8 weeks long, has two groups. One of them, an about black cis males, fed by a regular diet, and another group fed by a high sugar and butter diet. And after that, we have 6 subgroups. The first two, the control one, for 4 weeks, they were fed for the same diet, and one group had access only to water, and another one by a choice between water or ethanol. The other group continues to be fed by the HST, high sugar and butter diet, water or ethanol. And the last one, this is the trick and the most important group, these animals withdraw high sugar and butter diet, and we replace by the standard diet. And one group had access to water, and another group had access by a choice, a free choice between water and ethanol. This is quite important. It's not a drink, a forced drink, it's a choice between water or ethanol. And we measure then of the T1 and the end of the T2, the behavior of these animals. And about the diet developed by my own groups and Ana Caetano, and it's a pleasure to work with you. Here I just saw you the two main sugar and the standard diet and high sugar butter diet. Here the quantity of sugar in this one and this one is more than a double of sugar quantity. And here just HSP has butter. Okay, like a hedonic diet provoking main population in the reward system. And what about behavior at the end of T1 and T2 phase? Here I show you, I don't know if it's clear, but here we have the result about gain of weight. Here is the end of the 8 weeks at the end of T1 and the regular standard diet and HSP high sugar and butter diet here. And these animals had gained a lot of more weight than the regular one. And then at the end of T2, I'm sorry, but it's not right, it's not clear with the slides. And here we have the weight of these animals at the end of T2. These two, at the top of the figure is the HSP group, this group, and this at the middle is the switch group, and the down is the normal diet group. And about the adiposity index that we were related to the adipocyte in the animals, there's a lot of more adiposity here in the HSP group than the other two groups. And here, the most important for us is the preference for alcohol. Remember, there's a choice between water and alcohol. At the end of the T2, we have two patterns or three patterns of alcohol preference for alcohol. Here, the switch group had a preference more than almost 8% prefer alcohol, preference for alcohol. And the HSP, there's a 50% preference for alcohol. And the standard diet, or the standard group, has almost an aversion for alcohol use drinking. Here is a hypothetical no preference, 50%. And the behavior, there's a lot of tests, behavior tests, I showed you only two. The first one is the Marble Bury test. This test is based on a natural behavior of the mouse, that they bury an unknown object. And in this case, we put some marble. You know, the little spheres. I don't know how I say bolinha de gude. Do you know, Tatiana? Bolinha de gude in English? Beads? Sorry? Marble. Marble, yes, marble beads. Okay. There is a marble bead here placed on the top of the cage, and the same type, the same spheres, the same color, and the right distance here. We put animal into the cage, and we live and observe for 10 minutes. Okay? And spontaneously, the animal buried. We bury the spheres, and we count last or 10 minutes how many birds, how many marble these animals buried or hidden. And here we saw that HSP group had buried much more marble than the standard group, diet group. And this phenotype or this behavior was maintained even in switch group. It means that alcohol, it isn't enough to attenuate this behavior. And this kind of behavior is associated with obsessive compulsive or compulsive behavior. We expected it, we wanted it. And another behavior test is like dark box. It's a classical one to measure the anxiety-like behavior. When animal mouse doesn't like the light side of the box. And the anxiety behavior is a normal behavior for mouse. It's difficult for us to understand this because we are not an anxious being like mouse. And when you place the mouse here in the dark, we just observe the time it's spent to go to the light side, how many times it's still here, and the movement. And here, another, these two groups, it means HSV ethanol and switch ethanol, go went to the light side quicker than the regular one, and spend more time on the light side. It's all about the ethanol drinking. And more, once in the light side, they move a lot inside the light, and much more than the water group. Here is just ethanol, the main variable here to access the anxiety-like behavior, and we saw an anxiolytic effect of this treatment. And what about now quantify the genes related to food intake and reward system, just to show if the behavior links to the molecular regulation in brain. Here, we quantify some genes or auxiliary genes in hypothalamus, and we saw that we have more neuropeptide Y, gallin, and receptor of gallin. And all these genes are related to stimulation of food intake, and the neuropeptide Y is related to a change in behavior, such as compulsiveness. And what about this? It's linked to the leptin. Leptin is the satiation hormones. And when we are here, we have a lot of more leptin than the regular HSV and standard diet. And it's classified as like a resistance, a leptin resistance. And this resistance can trick and regulate and increase quantity of neuropeptide Y and related to compulsiveness behavior. Or the result remains to an addiction-like behavior. And what about the genes on reward system are many genes quite important to the regulation of the system. Here in prefrontal cortex and accumbens, and we measure the two main receptors for dopamine, D1 and D2, and D1 is related to the activation or stimulation of this system, and D2 the inhibitions, and what we see that's the down-regulated about the D2 receptor and upregulated about D1 receptor, and we know that the hyperregulation of D2 is linked to impulsive and increased self-administration of alcohol. And what about GABA? GABA is a neurotransmitter related to the inhibitions. It is invited by alcohol drinking, and here we have down-regulated or dysregulations of the receptor 1 and 2 on the prefrontal cortex, and only in the prefrontal cortex, related to a loss of regulations of dopaminic neurotransmissions. Then, about this first part of this project, we developed an animal model with an obese phenotype, a compulsion behavior, anxiolytic behavior, and we assess a dysregulation of the dopaminergic system. Good, now we'll talk about microbiota of this model. And we did this in 2 times at the end of T1 and the end of T2 for all these groups: standard, water, ethanol, HSE, water, and ethanol, and switch, water, and ethanol. And this is the main first, a little bit about the main results. Here we have clear two, when we compare only the diet, we have clear 2 groups by diversity, HSE and standard 1. When you compare the 6 groups, it's quite interesting because these 2 switch groups had at the end the same diet than the control one, ING, the standard diet. And here we saw, we clearly saw 6 different groups. We have an overlap of the 2 control groups and the 2 switch groups here, like a resilience of the microbiota. And what about the phenome? We had an increased ratio of fungus and bacteroidetes, and this is quite really associated with obesity. And also, we have here and having a positive interaction between the ratio and the obesity index and the weight gain. Here is the positive and confirmed association with the food intake. And what about a little more about the genus? Some genus we found much more in the HSE diet group and related to obesity and weight gain also, and the opposite side manner, loss genus related to anti-obesity effects, and also about the bacteroidetes here, loss of bacteroidetes, and this kind of finding is associated with repetitive behaviors like compulsion. And when we observe and compare at the family level, we have here, we can distinguish some different types, different profile for each group, but even we have a little bit similarity with the standard group water and the standard group ethanol, HSE water, HSE ethanol, and switch group has the most difference between water and ethanol. And what we found some family bacteria associated with obesity, like bacteroidetes and Clostridiaceae. And the most important for us, very interesting alcohol use disorders, here this family clear associated only with alcohol intake here in a positive association. And it's really interesting because this family of bacteria from this family is associated with inflammatory disease or perhaps a neuroinflammation. Do we have a neuroinflammation with animals? You see. And when you compare, we are interested in alcohol use disorders, in alcohol behavior. And here we just compare 2 groups. The standard one and alcohol, and the switch group with alcohol. The first group and the last group. And if I want to search for targets, for treatment targets, here is a quite interesting analysis. Here we have some clusters by genus level. We have 4 clusters. We have a decrease in switch group or an increase in switch group. These 2, there's more species from this genera in associated with reduction of anxiety, really what I saw in these animals, And the other side is quite interesting, perhaps, for therapeutic targets. Species for this gender is associated or populated by this genus, is associated of a good effect on inflammatory disease, like a treatment. And here, low quantity of the bacteria from this genus is associated with craving. Exactly what it attempted, it triggered in this animal model. And mostly, we observed a huge quantity of translocation, bacterial translocation to the liver, only in this group switch ethanol. Maybe an increased intestinal permeability. I don't know, you see? Yes. And what we have at the conclusion, we have a paper, we have a change in structure of fecal microbiome, abundance on feeding family and now gender. We have almost a resilience, structural resilience of the fecal microbiome. This change, which is regulation of the microbiome, is associated with increased intestinal permeability or neuroinflammations. Let's go to show you this first. And we did some measures, section quantity here. We quantify in the two groups, IMG, water, alcohol, switch, water, and alcohol. We quantify the short-chain fatty acids as a metabolite, as a product from the microbiota. And we saw much less at the total CFA, much less in the switch group, even water or ethanol. And we have difference in less acetate and butyrate. And this is quite related to the impermeability of intestinal epithelium. We didn't see, unfortunately, we didn't have difference in lipopolysaccharide, toxin, we don't have, unfortunately, quite curious. And what about the quantification of some genes in the column about the permeability, intestinal permeability? Here we have a lot less CHGA in switch group and mucin2 in switch group. Both genes are associated with permeability in the intestinal. We'll see a little more later. And we have also less Claudin-7 in switch group and TGP1 anti-Johnson in switch group. All these results, we have a lot of more, but I won't show you because it's a new result from France. And here, what I have just about these few results. Maybe we have a reduced difference mechanisms by low regulations by mucin, Claudin-7, and anti-Johnson type 9. Possible low-grade inflammation at the central level. We didn't find the difference by these toxins. We have now to quantify more genes or inflammatory genes in the hypothalamus, maybe ELISA. And what about the CHGA? It's a marker for endocrine cells. We have less quantity of this RNA in the switch group. It is concerned the entire endocrine peptides when you have to quantify these peptides. And these peptides is associated with a positive control or positive production of peripheral hormones like leptin, ghrelin, and etc. And all these results will be needed to be confirmed by immunohistochemistry, and also we did the metabolome, but we don't have the analysis of the results, but we did this. And finally, what about the neuroinflammation status? And here, we measure the migration inflammatory cells in the brain, and almost we have only in the switch ethanol group more leukocytes, more macrophages, more microglia. Clear neuroinflammation at the brain level. And also we quantified some cytokines molecules like IL-6, IL-1 beta, and there's more pro-inflammatory cytosines in striatum and less anti-inflammatory cytosines that control a negative manner. I know if I have lost IL-2, then I have more INOS, and unfortunately I don't have time to show you some results about this gene. And what about nerve inflammation? Yes, we have a nerve inflammation inflammatory status in the brain. By that, we have at the end we almost did a pretty much good animal model, triggered by two stimuli, diet one and ethanol, and by a negative reinforcement. We have a change in behaviors, like a mental disorders, a compulsion, or a less anxious. And when we withdraw this diet, the animal had another stimulus and it becomes alcohol-dependent or addicted for it. And in control and regulates all these phenotypes, we have a trouble or dysbiosis by access to diversity and the type of microbiome of these animals. It means that there is an increasing intestinal permeability, maybe some metabolites by vagus nerves, all central circulations, and they regulate some oxygenic genes by neuropeptide, Y ghrelin receptor, and also regulate the difference of regulated by the main genes in the Hilbert system, in the prefrontal cortex, nuclear accumbens or striatum, and also we have a neuroinflammation status here in the brain. A good model should try some treatments. For example, the two of one that I showed you, less of these genes associated to prevent, less of this associated or this probiotic, a good effect in the neuroinflammation or inflammation disease. That is a new perspective for this animal model. For example, make this model in females. We have some results by Miguel. It's a good one, really, really good results. In female, it's quite important now to do this in the both genders. And also therapy, and in collaboration with Raya, with Vasco, many probiotics. And we have this little molecule from, I really don't have time, but this is a quite important gene on the Hilbert system regulations. And also a translational study in collaboration with Guy Goodwin and this active in hand. And many papers, and I have to thank you, all my team, part with Renato here, if knows very well Renato. Now is a postdoc that worked a lot in this model, and Miguel here, new students that they made this female animal model, and also here the collaborations with Tatiana Maioli, because of her, I'm working with this slide now, Ana Caetano and Mauro, my own inflammatory results, and of course, Guy Goodwin, now my friend, that I spent 6 months in his lab, in her lab. And I would like to thank all her team here, in particular Eve and his family and friends, to welcome him this year. I'm so glad, I'm so proud to be here. I have this picture, I will send you. And thank you very much for this moment, and sorry about my English. Yeah. But I'm still thinking in about which kind of nutrient is more important to develop this. I'm sure it's true. Yeah, because we are trying to develop another model that we will work on. And that is also our collaboration with science in this model. And we are trying to improve and maybe we could do it with only the sugar to see what is happening and try to see in the gut the mechanism of absorption. Because if the mice are absorbing more sugar or more honey, the change in the root mechanism, not only in the gut, but including in the brain, it would be something in the mechanism. I'm not sure about it because with these results, we saw, we know maybe it's about sugar because we know at the end, food, this kind of food and alcohol, at the end is how much sugar. In the brain, the mechanisms, how there's not so much alcohol goes to the brain. Okay, and almost absorption of the alcohol is immediate. Yes, and the colon, this microbiota. Of course, we get more results from diet because it doesn't have alcohol in the colon. It's a little, not so much. Okay, and for me, sugar. At the end of the brain, the mechanism that regulate the reward system is the sugar. And I don't know, that's a quantity, it's more timeline. Not a quantity, but you know, addictions is the quantities are relations between quantity and time to use. It's not about only time or quantity, it's both. I use huge quantity of alcohol all the weekend, or I drink a little bit every day. It's the same thing. The same thing. And when you try to change the quantity, it's just the heavy drink, the binge. It's not addiction. It's, it's a little bit different.
Okay, thank you very much. That's carrying out those issues in these models and techniques and techniques. My first question concerns the beta diversity when you compare the HSP groups, alcohol versus water. You have differences, but did you show something about this? No.
No, I didn't
Why?
show. I didn't show yet.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, because for me, and that should be water and alcohol is interesting more or less because you remember compulsiveness is the same in both groups, water and ethanol. And of course, it's diet. And anxious is the same phenotype, the same here. And for me, it's more interesting to compare standard and switch and try to find the target different in this between this group.
And what about the possibility to transfer the microbiota of the switch groups into
Yes, it's a possibility. The problem is the timelines. 60 weeks of experiment. If I huge number of animals, it's quite difficult. Maybe we stay with the two extreme groups, standard and switch, and not to work anymore with the middle HSP groups, the less animals.
And finally, my last question is during this essay, did you observe some animals with no responder or something like this due to treatment?
No.
Or all the animals are?
Yes, it's quite homogeneous.
Okay.
The answer. Because it's isogenic strands. And expected to have the same, and almost the same weight, preference on alcohol, and all the measure of all the parameters is almost.
Thank you.
I have two questions too. Regarding the difference you see in the composition of biodiversity too, you said that there is this Loxia bacteria.
Yes.
I don't really know what bacteria. Do you think you could develop some kind of probiotics to help people get rid of
Yes,
this?
maybe. For sure, I'm sure, and almost medicine, pharmaceuticals are agree with me. It's not only a probiotic. I'm not imagine that I can treat and stop the behavior of craving or compulsion, but attenuate this because with addiction we almost have at the same time compulsiveness, depression, and the opposite of the mouse, anxious, and the guilt feeling, and maybe this probiotic might attenuate this behavior. Use a medicine, regular one, like diazepam or other medicines, and psychological therapy. It's a three-way pathway.
Maybe a few years ago, I saw some papers relating the development of probiotics against hangover.
Yes.
So maybe,
Yes.
yeah.
No, I don't want it. I want this.
Yeah.
Before.
And just a question of curiosity, when you say that sugar is the main driver for this behavior and stuff like that, is it the sugar itself, the molecule, or the sweetness? Did you replace sugar by a sweetener?
Good question. I don't know. You know, when the addicted people, or even the smell, trick a behavior. Food smell, drink smell, even the same. It's quite interesting. Our brain is a dangerous universe. Even smell, color, people, places. Remember, I like food, I like chocolate, I like cakes, or I like drink. Just it can trigger the change in
So it's more the kind of feeling that the molecule itself and the
yes,
energy.
but to go to the behavior, to go to the loss of control, I have first the molecule, sugar, alcohol, whatever, and then when I am addicted, only the smell, and the remember. You know, addictive behavior is a compulsion, is a group of memory, learning, feeling. It's quite a little feelings together goes addiction.
Congratulations. I have two thoughts about the research. Have you used different graduations of alcohol, different graduations, and you consider the expression of the enzymes from degrading alcohol before the transport?
No, 10% is the higher quantity of ethanol for this species. More than this is a toxic element, and less, that's quite no difference. Then we choose 10%. And yes and no about enzymes, because we are interested in the reward system in brain. I'm not interested in the effect of the alcohol directly, but the alcohol inhibitor. And because of this, I am not interested. It's quite important that in my work in our group, we are interested in the effect of the alcohol in the brain. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor. So now, yeah, we'll have a 15-minute break. We'll come back at 10 o'clock.
Você vai? Ah, tá bom. Política. Apagar as coisas. Tem resultado para você. Eu vou te deixar. Tem um jeito aí. Eu não vou falar nada de probiótico, mas eu não fiz ainda. É uma proposta de trabalho. Eu nem coloquei proposta, porque a gente fez um estudo. Mas o fenômeno não é. A gente fez interpretando a microbiota como antibiótico. Isso é uma coisa que eu acho que sim, é um conjunto de fenômenos que levam à modificação. Não é uma coisa só. Mas é muito diferente. Faz de novo. A gente mede permeabilidade diretamente. A gente mede o sangue. Você sabe que na fase primitiva eles fazem a cultura a partir do tecido do animal no sistema. Não, mas material incrível. Lá na França, quando a Samara foi para é um sentido. Você coloca, você abre o intestino, um pedaço do intestino, coloca um gradiente de viscose. Isso tudo na tabela? Pode deixar você. Pode chamar na hora. Pode deixar lá em cima, acho que sim. Vou tomar café. Tá. As meninas, né?
Eu acho que deu uma melhor, porque eu tava falando Você já tem visto? Ah, você já deu pra mim. Okay, I just want to remind you that your presence should be registered by scanning the QR code in the table in front of the room. Don't forget, please. Lucas, pode abaixar um pouco, por favor. Thank you. So, next, I would like to invite the professor from the School of Nursery of UFMG, Professor Dr. Tatiana Maioli.
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to thank the organization for the invitation. Hi, how are you? And I'm glad to present some old and new data. And I will be a little bit different from everybody because I will not talk about bacteria or microbiota. But I would like to show an overview of the impact of the basic immune system and why we decided to study all this stuff. So, in fact, according to WHO, we are obese now. We have 20% of all population with obesity. Now in the world is 13%. And in Brazil, we have 20% of the population with obesity, is not overweight. And around the world, we have almost 40% of people with overweight. It's a lot, and it's much more than undernutrition. And in Brazil, that is people without enough or good food to eat, but they are overweight. So this is striking. And children also are affected. We have an improvement in all this population, here men and women, in all around the world. Brazil is like here, in this green, and France is like here. France is not that bad. So the classification of obesity is regarding to BMI, is body mass index. It's discussed for many people, but for me, it's a good way to measure because food and as well it's just you have the weight and you divide it by the square of your height. So it's not that difficult and it is used all around the world. But obesity is a problem with many facts. It's not a disease. It is a disease. We need to make it clear that it is a disease. People is trying to lovely things about obesity, but it's not a lovely thing. It's a bad thing, and it's a very a very great, how can I say that? Very severe disease. And it's caused by many facts, not only metabolic or eating behavior, but the social cultural disease, history, family history disease, environment, psychological, genetic, and also metabolic. And the problem of the obesity is not only the obesity, but it's also what obesity is causing, because the problem of obesity is all the other diseases that comes with obesity that are cancer, psychological disorders, atherosclerosis, diabetes, liver disease, and also infectious disease. And we faced this problem in COVID-19.
And we could observe that obese people were the most affected for severe COVID-19. So that's kind of very interesting. And why obesity causes or induces so many diseases? We don't know yet what comes first, but the thing is that adipose tissue from obese is like this, with a lot of inflammatory cells, with a lot of immunological cells. It's not only cells with it's not that they are inflammatory, but they have changes in their phenotype and their characteristics and their functions. So those cells are not functioning in a very good shape. And it's not happening in the control or in the individuals. And what is very clear, for me it's not clear, but what is very much seen in the literature is that when the adipose tissue increases, not only in number of cells, but in the size of cells, the cells from immune system, the leukocytes migrate to this tissue, and they develop an inflammatory environment here because the adipose tissue have not enough oxygen, and cells starting to die, and it makes necessary the cleaning of these dead cells. And so for this and the liberation of free fat acids or any other things induces the migration for all these leukocytes to adipose tissue. And in the literature, we are not in completely agreement with this, but we have N1 macrophage, that's an inflammatory macrophage, but we also have an N2 macrophage around the vasculature. And this problem starts to happen, this macrophage starts to be fed by these free fat acid or dead cells here. And also the T cells and B cells comes, and they start to produce antibodies, and the cells for Th1, the T cells start to be differentiating Th1, Th17, and also the activation of CD8 cells start to kill more cells. And necessarily, it not stays only in the adipose tissue. If they would stuck in the adipose tissue, it would be easier to deal with it, but it goes to all the body. And this start point that the improving of leptin and the decreasing adiponectin with a lot of inflammatory cytokines produced start to try to give consequence to the immune system and also to the development of other diseases. And this is immunosenescence of the cells, so the cells start to be old before they should be old, so they don't respond exactly very well. They have an hyperinflammation delayed, so when you are infected or when you need those cells, these cells are stressed, the cells are tired, and so they do not deal with other phenomena. And also kind of storm that is what causes many situations as we saw in COVID-19. How happened in obese people with SARS-CoV-2 because they have more expression of AC2 receptor because the blood pressure needs to be more regulated because they have a difficulty in maintaining the blood pressure in the cells that are expressing AC2,
And this chronic inflammation comes to immune system dysfunction. And the problem is how the immune cells deal with the parasite, or not parasite, this is a virus, but how the immune cells deal with the pathogen. And since 2012, we are trying to understand this pathway, how obese are dealing with pathogens. And here we have a review where they are showing that obese people are more susceptible to H1N1 influenza, to antimicrobials and antivirus and other microbes and antivirus infections. And then we have also susceptibility to parasite disease, that is toxoplasmosis or malaria or leishmania or other pathogens. And so our hypothesis was obesity will interfere in the immune response to leishmaniasis. And leishmaniasis in Brazil is a very important disease because it's happening all around the world, all around our country. And we have different types of leishmaniasis. I will not explain a lot of leishmaniasis here. This will interfere. So this is a experimental model for immune response to obesity, to leishmaniasis. And in leishmaniasis, it was described that 57 black cyst mice and Bact-Inflam mice have a different developed a Th1 type. In the opposite, Bact-Inflam mice will develop Th2 immune response, and it will promote the parasite survival and proliferation. And thinking about this, we used the resistance model where mice, 57 black cyst mice, will be resistant to Leishmania, and we would like to know in a very clear and very studied model what it will happen. Because if you try to choose a model that is not clear at all, we will not understand what will happen. So we took this model and we give the mice the diet that Ana Lúcia was talking to you. And this diet is rich in sugar and butter, and it makes the mice obese. And then we infected these mice in the ear because the infection is an intravenous infection. And then we follow this infection. And this is my who developed this system. And what we saw is here is the body weight from the mice that was eating this diet. And here in the middle of more or less here with forms of diet, we infected the mice and then we followed during 8 weeks. And what we saw is that in normal mice, in mice, we have a classical response with a few parasites here, 2 weeks after infection, a huge amount of parasites 4 weeks after infection, and then it goes down and it less aggressive disease. And for obese mice, we have this increase in parasite burden and also in the size of the lesion, because the problem also will be the size of the lesion. And here we can see the ears, the infected ears, and also the obese mice, they almost lost all their ears. And we start to ask, but how about the immune response? We imagine that the Th1, the classical Th1 response that is necessary to kill the parasite would be messy, would be not happening very well. But in the opposite, we could see that not. the cytokines from Th1 response and also for Th2 was there in all mice. So the problem was not the type immunity, but they don't have Th2. So the problem was not that. And we could see that the problem could be IL-17 because obesity improved the IL-17 response that is related not only to some kinds of infectious disease but also to autoimmune disease. And also another problem that we could see is that to kill the parasite, the macrophage needs to produce NO is nitric oxide, and they do not need to produce arginase, active arginase. But what we saw that the macrophages from these mice are not producing enough NO, and also when they are infected, they are producing NO, but when they are infected, they also produce arginase. Oh, they are having different response at the same time, and it's tricky to the infection. And when we are comparing these, we stimulate those macrophages in vitro and infect them in vitro, and again they have more parasites. The obesity macrophages have more parasites, and they are not developing a classical N1 phenotype that is in accordance to kill the parasites. So we have two problems, the Th17 and also the profile of the macrophages. We published these results, but we still asking what happened. And some years ago, people from Bahia published this data in humans, showing that when the body weight is higher, the healing time to leishmaniasis in Bahia comes more time. So the obese people are not dealing with leishmaniasis very well. And here is a lesion from obese people, different from uncontrolled lesion, and showing in accordance with our experimental results, the Edgar group showed that it also happens in humans. And also, we still asking why. And Vinicius was trying to investigate the profile of the cells in the lesion, inside the lesion, because the cells inside the lesion are very important to develop this inflammatory response that is necessary to kill the parasites. And what we saw was the problem in a delay in the neutrophils here. And here he saw a decrease in dendritic cells, and also he saw an increase in this kind of macrophage that they call resident macrophage, and they are expressing this molecule that ECD206, and this molecule was described that is important in the susceptibility of infection. And in normal conditions, a C5796 mice will not have a lot of these cells in the lesion because these cells are not able to kill the parasite. So, and he saw that in obese mice, we had a huge amount of this macrophage that expresses the 206, and these cells are proliferating in the ear, so they have a proliferative index in the ear, and also they are here. So here is the same picture but in graphics, and they are proliferating. So one of the mechanisms could be because of the cells. So our partial conclusion here in the lean mice, we have these cells come from, and we do not have a lot of CP206 here, but and have the lesion size here, the lesion increase and then decrease. But in obese, we don't have this profile. We have an increase in the lesion and keeping big lesions, and then at the end, mice will lose their ears. And it is associated with these cells. So we could show that obese mice are susceptible to infections. But also, we asked if obesity would impact other diseases and how obesity impacts other diseases. In the literature, it's very common to observe results, epidemiological results showing that asthmatic people are obese. So there's a correlation in between asthma and if those mice have an oral tolerance induction and a normal development of oral tolerance, and if they are not having a good development of oral tolerance, and if they are not having a good development of oral tolerance, they will be allergic. Not only for food allergy, but also for other types of allergy as asthma. So this picture is complicated. It's not organic. But this I would like to show here that in lean mice we have a healthy gut because diet proteins have tolerance to diet. It happens in the gut, and the lean gut and the healthy gut they have controlled permeability with cells, dendritic cells that express CD103, macrophage that express CX3CR1 of IgA. In the opposite, in obese mice or in obese people, we do not have healthy health gut, and the gut in obesity have more permeability to many things. And we have an inflammatory macrophage that CCR2 positive macrophage and develop TH1 immune response and increasing in TH17 immune response. And this will impact the development of oral tolerance because oral tolerance means these kind of cells, CD103 dendritic cells, and also they need to improve the differentiation in the regulatory cells. When we have a breakdown in this tolerance process in the gut, we have increased permeability, and these antigens will be present to inflammatory dendritic cells or to inflammatory macrophages, and instead to have the development of Treg cells, they will have Th2 or even another kind of inflammatory cells develop. So what we observe is that mice in receiving obesogenic diet, they have a weight increasing the weight, and also glycemia are increasing, and they have increased gut permeability. We measure this gut permeability with Bact, and this permeability is in accordance is they have a correlation with blood fasting glucose, and also they have increasing in IgA in the gut because probably they have we measure it
they have an altered microbiota, so to deal with this microbiota, they need more IgE. So we decided to test if they are having the development of oral tolerance, of antigen tolerance that prevents allergic disease. So we can see here in the control mice that receive the antigen or the protein that is allergenic. They have less antibody production, IgG1 and IgE. And the obese mice, they do not decrease the production of antibodies against the food allergen or the food protein, showing that obese mice have a defect, they have a problem in developing this oral tolerance. That's why they might be more susceptible to allergies. And here we could see also the same results for cellular immune response with higher production of interferon gamma, TNF alpha, and less and not increasing in TGF-beta or regulatory T cells. And when we challenge these mice, these obese mice with allergen, or we try to induce allergy, we can see that these mice lose more weight because one of the measures of this model of allergy is not the food allergy is different for different mice and different for different allergens. In the case of ova, we can see decrease in the body weight, increase in the IgG1 and IgE production, and also more vascular permeability to the antigen. So we could see loss of weight in the mice, the obese mice, more IgG1 produced against ova, a lot of IgE, and also increased permeability when they are challenged with the antigen. So this is vascular permeability, showing that obesity induces aggressive or a more allergenic response. And when we try to treat these mice with metformin, that is a medicine that controls blood glucose or the absorption of glucose, we improve some results. We decrease again the gut permeability. We did not have a lot of IgG1 produced when we tried to tolerate these mice. But we can have a problem with obesity and also with glycemia. So glycemia can be one of the factors that are inducing gut permeability and also the impact in the oral tolerance. Because when you treat with metformin, we reduce this problem with oral tolerance. And we saw this similar result in humans, because obese humans with diabetic mellitus, not obese without diabetes, but more IgE, and also here we have more expression in the gut for some molecules, including including ovaltine. But when these obese people have diabetes, regulatory T cells in the gut, we do not have a lot of IL-2, less tight junctions proteins, that obesity impact the gut homeostasis, and it leads to oral tolerance failure and improve allergic disease. So that obese and metabolic, the overview of this situation in obesity is that obese and metabolic syndrome are related with loss of lymphoid tissue integrity or the lymphoid organs are not functional very well, and it is related with chronic disease as leishmaniasis, asthma, allergies, or other kind of chronic disease. It causes altered distribution of leukocytes population around the body and impacts the leukocyte distribution in the locals in the body where they need to be in the situation of the disease. And we also change impaired immunity in the people. So we like to thank all people in our lab and also UFMG and all the financial support.
Questions?
Yeah.
Hello.
Hi, how are you? So you were talking about parasite infection for journalists. Do you know if there is probably the same problem with bacterial infection, like CB or something like that?
Yeah, there are this problem. People with, for example, sepsis, that's caused by gram-negative bacteria, they have a more severe sepsis. And if you check the results for humans, they do not recover very well from sepsis. And the Staphylococcus aureus is also,
Yes,
also Staphylococcus.
and CB, do you know Clostridium difficile? Do you know if there is more Clostridium
No, I haven't seen something about Clostridium, but I believe that.
Probably not. Thank you.
Because not all the diseases are genetic. The two different classes, genetic predisposition and none. And they answer at the same time or the same way from infection disease or COVID, for example.
Of course, in my opinion, and what we saw in COVID-19 results and the H1N1 results is that, of course, there is a difference in the genetic background. Some people with obesity, they do not eat a lot. They eat a lot, but they do not develop a severe infectious disease. But in another way, at the end of the time, the things would be the same. They would, because we don't know if they are not exposed, very exposed to the disease, or if they are just dealing with the disease. That's the point. Also, in leishmaniasis, if you go to Bahia, we have regions where there are a lot of people with obesity, but some people they have, because we have this variation, that deal with the disease, but a lot of them do not deal very well with the disease. And also, in the 8 guys group, people from our friends from Philippines and FDA, they are studying how diabetic and pre-diabetic people with type 2 diabetes are dealing with the leishmaniasis. And the problem is not only the weight, but also the metabolic problem caused by obesity. So the increasing in glycemia will give more susceptibility to this infectious disease.
So it's more metabolic syndrome than obesity per se.
Yeah.
Any other questions? No? Thank you so much, Professor Tatiana. Following on, We are pleased to invite the Associate Professor in the Department of Microbiology of the Federal University of Minas Gerais, Professor Daniele Taglio de Souza.
Good morning, everybody. First of all, I'm extremely sorry because I lost the talk of Anna, my dear colleague, and the Tatiana, but I was in class. So sorry. Yeah. I'm sure that I was the very good talk, but it's not possible. Yeah. And I would like to thank my invitation. It's a great opportunity to present some results of my lab. And today I will talk about the microbiota drives pro-inflammatory and pro-immune response. And it's okay. Yeah. And first of all, I would like to present my line of research in its development of platform to study the inflammatory disease in vivo and in vitro. The main goal is understanding disease mechanisms, but you use this platform to drug mark test as concept proof. And my lab works with several research lines, lung infection, arboviruses, various factors in systemic disease. It's a big group, and it's very good to work because several students with different work and add so much for everybody. And today I choose to focus because the Congress about the microbiota, and I think very interesting because it's contain several different lines into this. Then we are studying microbiota in the context of arboviruses, lung infection, systemic disease, and the influence of this in various factors. Now I will talk about a little the history that I choose to work with microbiota. I work with ischemic diffusion in my PhD with Mauro Teixeira, and I have several studies about this that show the inflammatory response, important role of inflammatory response in ischemic and diffusion, intestinal ischemic diffusion. And because of this, one contest, the leukocytes are recruited to infection city about a specific recruitment forms, and in ischemic diffusion it's very important to neutrophil recruitment, and several mediators release as aphids, TNF alpha, and the another chemokines. And I'm sorry, I think that is no name, but it's ischemic diffusion injury is characterized by intense inflammatory response, cytokine storm, and dysfunction of multiple organs. If you see this characterized, it's the same of sepsis process. Then my hypothesis is after ischemic perfusion injury, there are important endothelial damage that occur increase of vascular permeability, consequent bacteria translocation, and the the sepsis. Then the question is the characteristics for sepsis it's secondary to ischemic diffusion injury, and to answer this, our rationale is use to germ-free mice, because germ-free mice there is no bacteria, no sepsis, and no lethality. To prove this, you use the ischemic perfusion of the superior mesenteric arteria during 60 minutes in conventional or germ-free mice. After this time, the arteria is perfusion, the blood was released, and after 4 minutes, the mice are euthanized. For lethality experiment, we follow the mice. And in fact, it's seen our hypothesis correct. Germ-free did not die after while conventional mice died about 60 minutes after the perfusion, germ-free mice didn't die, and no inflammation. Here I show CNF concentration and neutrophil recruitment, and while conventional mice present important CNF production and neutrophil recruitment, germ-free mice, there is no inflammation. Then it's appears that inflammatory response is secondary to bacterial translocation. But no, you mentioned the bacterial translocation in conventional mice, and there is no bacterial translocation in conventional mice that because of this, our hypothesis is not true. But you showed that the phenotype of germ-free mice is because of microbiota, because when I gave microbiota pieces of germ-free mice, they return the phenotype, the inflammatory phenotype, and it's necessary the contact of microbiota, not one presence, because it's happening only 14 days after the colonization. And it's returned vascular permeability, evaluated by this view, neutrophil recruitment, hemorrhage, and CNF concentration, all this after 4 days. And in this point, we think there is no bacterial translocation in conventional mice, but germ-free mice not show inflammatory response. What is happening? In this moment, Mauro Teixeira, that was my supervisor, asked for me, I think that the germ-free mice is the same of leprosy. No inflammation in its very body study. I said, oh no, it's very beautiful, but I need to understand what is happening, and I decided to measure IL-10. And for our surprise, germ-free mice produce high concentration of IL-10 after injury, in opposite of conventional mice that produce high concentration of TNF. Then it's IL-10, it's very important because with the advocacy IL-10 for two different strategies, I reversed the protective phenotype. Here, germ-free mice that didn't die, conventional mice died until 60 minutes after the perfusion, and with the antibody, anti-IL-10, germ-free diet, germ-free mice died since conventional mice. Okay, then germ-free mice showed even high responsiveness dependent on IL-10 production. Then our question is one IL-10 that is important or are the pro-resolving molecules participating of this process? To this, we will study two different molecules, lipoxin. Lipoxin is a derivative of arachidonic acid and acts in FBR2 receptor, and this regulation inhibition pro-inflammatory response and activity pro-resolutive response as phagocytosis, apoptosis, and phagocytosis. Other knowledge is annexin 1 that is the production is induced by corticoid and acts also in FPR2 receptor and induce a pro-resolutive response. Then we showed that the germ-free mice produces both these molecules increase in relationship in comparison with conventional mice. Then germ-free mice present increase of IL-10 as demonstrated before, lipoxin and annexin 1 when compared to conventional mice. I think that is, but it's okay. I tell you, you believe in me. Please, that the block itself here, annexin 1 prevent protective cannot contain figures. To this, you use two different strategies. Use two different strategies. We induce ischemia in mice, conventional germ-free mice, in the same protocol that I said before. And 10 minutes before the refusion, we treated the mice with ZM, that is an inhibitor of 5-lipoxygenase, that is necessary to production of lipoxin, and BOT1, that is antagonist of FPR2 receptor. They inhibit both molecules, and they are anti-annexin. And here I demonstrated the inhibition of lipoxin 1 prevent protective phenotype in germ-free mice, as demonstrated by treatment of ZM. While germ-free mice treated with the vehicle induced a high production of IL-10. This treatment reduces the production of IL-10, and in interesting way, block that is antagonist of receptor, and because this both molecules have more efficient effect, and this block the blockage of TNF in germ-free mice was reverted, and both strategy is able to induce increase of TNF in germ-free mice. It's very interesting because said that germ-free mice is not able to produce TNF or inflammatory molecule. It's only one naive situation that it's necessary one previous stimulus to be able to produce. Then it's activation of FPR2. Here I demonstrated the same with annexin, that is the not that graph that is red, but the reactivation of FPR2 control IL-10 production in germ-free mice, as demonstrated here. Do you see here? I don't see. but it's with Alexian and here it's ZM and Bock, or both strategy together, Alexian and ZM that blocked Alexian and Lipoxin. And the blockage of PR2 reverse protective phenotype in vermifree mice as demonstrated by ability to induce neutrophil recruitment in comparison with the alcohol group, and both strategy is the same or very less of FPR2 antagonist. And the question is, okay, it's good, no inflammation after sterile model. It's very good. But it's good to be germ-free mice before infection process. To answer this, we infected the mice with Klebsiella pneumonia, and our results demonstrated that as conventional mice with this inoculum of Klebsiella didn't die, our germ-free mice died until 3 days after infection. It's a low inoculum, but germ-free mice is died, and because don't have neutrophil recruitment, don't have CNF production and production high IL-10, but because there is no neutrophil recruitment, there is increase of bacteria in lung and blood. Then the microbiota is necessary to mice respond to stimulus inducing inflammatory response. I think that it's okay. Here, our next question is: germ-free has hyperresponsiveness in another model or only after ischemia reperfusion? To answer this, you use the mucositis model, and you see that germ-free mice or conventional mice treated with antibiotic don't have eosinophil or neutrophil recruitment. There is no disease. We evaluated by histological analysis, by clinical score, and the science of intestine. That I don't know, I don't know what's happening, but it's not here. But I can show after for you. And it is reverted when you conventionalize germ-free mice with facets of germ-free, of conventional mice. So, and in positive model, you also can be the increase of corticoid and annexin-1 and IL-10. And this is very interesting result because it is one demonstrated in the time. While annexin-1 is production with 1 day after mucositis, IL-10 is production with 3 days. That demonstrated. In fact, annexin-1 is important to induce IL-10 in our system. And as happening with the inhibition of annexin or lipoxin or IL-10, inhibition of corticoid also is able to revert hyperresponsiveness phenotype in germ-free mice. ROO is an antagonist of corticoid receptor, and in the presence of this pharmac, germ-free mice present disease of IL-10 and chemokines. And this drug reverts the protective phenotype in germ-free mice as a primitive glycine inhibition. And now we ask if, okay, it's possible to revert the phenotype with molecules that inhibit inflammatory response, but we are able to modify the system with monoclonalization. And to answer this, you choose the Escola because it's an enterobacteria very important in commensal bacteria very important in mice. And our results demonstrate that E. coli in germ-free mice reverts the production of corticosterone. And it most interesting when you block it, E. coli in conventional mice, you have a phenotype since germ-free mice. They produce high concentration of corticosteroid. And it's the monoclonalization is also able to increase clinical score. Then, in the presence of E. coli, two different strains of E. coli, but not the fragilis, we have disease of the mucositis. Then, the colonization with one group of bacteria reverts the protective effect because inhibits the production of unresolving materials. And here, I think that it's last, I lost some slides here, and it's a new experiment that we are doing, and it's about infection with chikungunya virus. Chikungunya virus is an important arbovirus in Brazil, and especially because industrial prolongate them, and our infected germ-free or conventional mice with chikungunya, and especially we measure the pain. And the real conventional mice presented high pain because you use it about the remove the ball, and in this graph in this graph demonstrate that while conventional mice there is a pain, a strong pain, germ-free mice there is a no pain. It's the same as control mice. And it's very interesting because you have demonstrated 10 years ago, I think so, that after carrageenan or other extreme pain, hypernoceptive stimulus of the pain, germ-free visited in situ. And here, they don't have virus, a difference between a conventional or germ-free. Only one day that germ-free, there is a small decrease of virus recovery. And there is no inflammatory response efficient as conventional mice that it's possible to be responsible by decrease of pain. And here you can conclude that in colonized state, we have microbiota, there is a signal for production of TNF chemokine production, and leukocytes mobilization. In jellyfish stated no polarization, there is no signal for production TNF, but the production well-resolved molecules as glycoxine and annexin-1 that bind non-receptor RFX or FPR2, and they produce induced IFS production, and because of this, there is no inflammation. And then we believe that microbiota take on this sign to dormant state to alert state, and it's very important evolutively because you need to have inflammatory response to defend against microorganisms, bacteria and fungal and virus. I don't know what's happening. I think that I gave a long presentation, but you have some results with fungi to cryptococcus neoformans. There is no disease in jellyfish mice as happened in conventional mice. And you have some results that showed that not only the conventionalization of jellyfish, but parts of bacteria. For example, we are able to induce response, inflammatory response, after injection of RPS in jellyfish. RPS prime the jellyfish, and because this, they are able to answer after. And this is show that the alert state is necessary to respond to tissue injury, deal with acute infection, instruction for acquired immune response, systemic and exacerbated inflammatory response. And then it's a point. It's good to have inflammatory response to respond to microorganisms. But in some models, sterile models, as ischemia perfusion, mucositis, inflammatory is not good. Then it's very important to think that inflammatory is necessary, but it needs to be controlled and out self-control, and it's most important. And because this, our lab in this moment has studied in a paper of Serran, the first paper that showed this concept of resolving process, because before this we believe that the inflammatory response won't finish. And they showed that there is one set, after this there is a peak and a resolution of the process, and it's active process, no passive process. And what you believe that it's necessary a microbiota eubiota to this process happen in correct way. And if you have a failure of resolution with exacerbated inflammatory, that it's a bad process that can be associated with the microbiota of that dysbiosis process. And I would like to thank my lab and everybody working a little in this results. Oh, sorry. I lost my last slide too, but I would like to ex-students, that's important to do these results, our collaboration, and the support actions. Thank you so much. I'm so sorry by my presentation. I lost some slides, but
Any questions?
It's amazing, but it's amazing, but my brain is trying to understand because my first question, germ-free is able to recover from wound from not only pathogen because it doesn't have inflammation. The lack of microbiota impairs inflammation. But if you cut the skin or if they are able to recover.
Lucila Barcelos, of Physiology Department, had a work showing this. They have difficulty to recover.
That was I was
Yes, because there is no inflammation and it's the problem.
Yeah, the lipoxins are necessary to.
Yes, yes.
And another
But
question.
it's work of Lucila Barcelos. Yes.
And my other question is, you said that when you give LPS to mice, they start to have inflammation. My doubt is there a problem not only with neutrophils, that you showed the problem with neutrophils, but is there a problem with macrophages in any problem in regard to expression of this PRR, the receptor for innate immunity and this kind of thing? Because sometimes I keep imagining during the evolution, during the development of those mice, they need these challenges to make those cells with those receptors that is able to keep and capture those
It's very interesting question. And we have one experiment that proved that free mice that it's not difficult to keep inflammatory response. For example, we can put in the pleural LPS infection that is no neutrophil recruitment. We can inject TNF-alpha, no neutrophil recruitment. We can inject CXCL1, that is neutrophil recruitment. Then, what's happening? It's a neutrophil that is no problem to recruit, but the system don't learn to produce pro-inflammatory molecules. Then the LPS or bacteria as E. coli or feces of complete colonization take on the process. I think that this is a dormant process because produces high concentration of IL-10. And it's very interesting because if you see a macrophage of a newborn, it's the same profile. Then I think that the cells and the cells learn to production pro-inflammatory materials, and the whole treatment them is macrolide, or the products of macrolide.
Any more questions? No. Thank you, Professor Daniel. Okay, thank you very much you all for your presence in this morning conference. That's all for this morning. So we'll have a lunch break and we'll be back at 2 p.m.
Yeah, I know there are a lot of oh my God. It's very good. Relationship between diet, nutrition, and things like that. We try to ask you questions, say, we want to